Well, good morning. Hey, what's happening? I'm back. I'm here, and hmm, I had a bit of a technical issue today, and it was I had to get my camera kind of online, and YouTube wasn't allowing me to do that. How is everybody this morning? Yeah, so I'm running a little bit late. I apologize. I started off at about 9:11. It took me about 14 minutes to get cranking here. So it's another day in the Matrix neighborhood, and we all rise and shine during the power hour, coffee power hour. The Good morning, Anna. This is the time where we get to indulge in some alchemical transformation of the Matrix, and I'm always happy to be here and provide any kind of insight or humor that's a part of the process. Misty Morrow. Good morning, Misty Morrow. I like that name. There's Judy. Hi, Judy. How are you today? Hey, I got some updates. There's JMP. What's up, JMP? I've got some updates. Hi, Beth, on the fluoride action here, anti-fluoride. Hello, Lynn. Here in Fredericksburg, we started a GoFundMe, and we started getting some donations on the GoFundMe account. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you. And we have our first two donations, which is, I think, a pretty cool thing on the anti-fluoride campaign here. So if you're interested in participating in your own way and donating, you can go to our Facebook page, which is Clean Water Fredericksburg. Hey, Charles, what's going on, man? Nice to see you. And there's Sticky Marks and Ani Brito. So yeah, you can go to our Facebook page, Clean Water Fredericksburg. We have a link up there on for our GoFundMe account. So if you feel like you want to throw 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks into the kitty so we can get this thing rolling here, buy some ads, turn some lights on, in terms of people's consciousness, there's an opportunity. I want to thank Padraig, and I want to thank Susan for donating. Thank you very much. Your money will be well represented here inside the city limits. So what's going on, everybody? How are you this morning? It is the 28th of November. Got some action happening on the Mueller front. I got some news about where England is going with AI and pre-crime. I also want to get into something that's pretty revelatory, and this kind of fits into the Mercury retrograde matrix, right? This is the Mercury retrograde kind of stuff that's really interesting because we are in a Mercury retrograde now. And we're also with Mars and Pisces. And one of the things that Heather and I talked about on one of our recent broadcasts was the fact that we're going to possibly see, a serious false flag coming up. And that's going to coincide with the Mars-Neptune conjunction. Like red flag all over the place, okay? Now, Mars is in Pisces. And remember, the 12th house is the house that is ruled by Pisces. And when we get into the 12th house, we get into things like sanitariums, halfway houses, recovery centers, prisons, hospitals, crack houses. This is where people generally are not seen. I think you could probably maybe throw nightclubs into that sort of 12th house. It's like it's a dark after hours, behind the scenes. Movie theaters, I've often thought are 12th house experience as well. Movie theaters became the sort of the modern chapel of the 20th century, right? This is where we went to get, in a lot of ways, our electronic fix in terms of our emotional and spiritual content. It was the movie theater, right? It was a ritual. You had things that you ate inside of a movie theater. You had your popcorn, you had your soda. It's the same. It's a secularized version, right, of bread and wine, and then you would have this experience. The original cathedrals were movie theaters unto themselves. I mean, they were actually created with a great deal of thought and consciousness, or at least conscious awareness. If you go to Chartres Cathedral in France, what you'll see is a multimedia sort of sensorium that was created for the time that it was in, and there were stories being told, right? As the sun would move from stained glass window to stained glass window, it would be illuminated and there'd be a story. And if you followed the story and you followed the pattern, you would get the sort of intrinsic gnosis that was being built into that structure. And of course, there were things like singing and choral polyphony and then of course you had the mass and so the cathedral was in a lot of ways the original movie theater, and then the movie theater in the 20th century became sort of this kind of alternative version of the theater. All right, we got some QAnon action. Charles says 12/12 is the big day. Okay, there it is. That's the goalpost right there. 12/12. I mean, we've seen some other big days prophesied by Mr. whatever QAnon is. So 12/12. All right, it's on the calendar. Looking for it. Let's see. Rhonda says that it's 32 degrees in St. Augustine. Speaking of the Catholic Church, St. Augustine, of course. St. Augustine. 32 degrees. Man, that's chilly for Florida. You better take care of your oranges. You better cover those navels. Make sure those oranges stay nice and warm down in Florida. So, let's get back to this whole Mars and Pisces thing, right? So if the 12th house is ruled by Pisces, which it is, and Mars is guns and violence and all that intense stuff. Oh, we've got a moon conjunction with Pluto on the 12th. Lynn jumping right in there with some good astro knowledge. Moon conjunct Pluto, so it's going to be 20 degrees. Let's see, on the 12th. So that'll be what? That'll be just after the new moon, right? So, look who's here. The co-host, right on time, almost. 12/12, all multiples of 6. That scares me. Yeah, it could be. 19 degrees. Here's Jasper. He's in on it. Jasper, what do you think about the 12th of December? You have any thoughts about that? Ooh, something got his attention. Jasper sees astral entities. He'll just like look at the ceiling or the wall. He's like picking up on beings. There's sticky marks. You really are a phoenix. Watch E-Day-G again, and Hall saw your Q chart. You talk about the Jones lad returning to be our hero. I miss him still, but your Q, wow. Alex Jones, he'll be back. What do you think of Alex Jones? Huh? He's getting information from over there. All right, so let's get into the meat. All right, so today I just saw this crossed my radar. This gets into that whole Mars and Pisces thing. And this is a Mercury retrograde moment in time. This is from Baltimore.cbslocal.com. No active shooter found at Walter Reed Military Medical Center after false alarm. Okay, here we go. The U.S. Navy says a mistake using a mass notification system led to reports of an active shooter at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. They said the false alarm was an improper use of mass notification system. Call came in at about 2 p.m. for a report of an active shooter situation in the basement of Building 19 at Walter Reed. After an investigation by NSA Bethesda, no active shooter was found. By the way, you can follow NSA Bethesda over on Twitter if you like, because I'm sure their Twitter feed is really fucking interesting. Summary of active shooter response at NSAB Bethesda. Around 2 p.m. today, Tuesday, November 27th, a call came into security at NSA Bethesda with a report of an active shooter situation in the basement of Building 19 at Walter Reed Bethesda. Follow-up tweet from NSA Bethesda. Security responded and cleared the building, finding no indication of an active shooter. After investigating the call and the origin, NSA Bethesda has determined that this was a false alarm and not part of a scheduled drill. as has been reported. Investigators found this was a false alarm and not part of a scheduled drill, as was reported. The U.S. Navy tweeted later in the evening that the incident was the result of improper use of a mass notification system by attendant command aboard the installation. Oh, here's another great Twitter feed to follow, the U.S. Navy. I'm sure it'll be very insightful, this Twitter feed. The active shooter event aboard Naval Support Activity Bethesda today was the result of the improper use of a mass notification system by attendant command aboard the installation while preparing for an upcoming drill. The notification system was inadvertently enacted. So they're going to have a drill. There are drills happening at hospitals now. Hospitals are the next place where we're going to see something happen. It's going to happen. They're telegraphing this. They continue to say that while preparing for an upcoming drill, the notification system was inadvertently enacted without containing the words exercise or drill. U.S. Navy tweets, the active shooter event aboard Naval Support Activity Bethesda today was the result of improper use of mass notifications by attendant command while preparing for the upcoming drill. The notification system was inadvertently enacted. Their follow-up tweet is, without containing the words exercise or drill. Individuals who saw the mass notification statement immediately notified NSA Bethesda Security, where they responded accordingly and instituted an installation-wide active shooter response. They said on further investigation, they determined that the improper use of the system was the root cause and secured the active shooter response. Maryland Representative Dutch Ruppersberger was there for a doctor's appointment. He said at no point was there any indication that this was a drill. The congressman said he waited with 40 people who heard active shooter announcements blaring inside the facility. Well, that'll get your blood pressure up in the hospital situation, won't it? I was walking the halls, and all of a sudden, people who work for the hospital were telling us to get in this back room, and then they barricaded the doors. Ruppersberger said about every 20 minutes, an announcement would come on and say, "There's an active shooter. Security is on the premises." They eventually let us go and said it was okay. We went out in the hall, and they put us back in the room again. We've been given the all clear at Walter Reed. At no point was there any indication this was a drill. Interesting. So they got a government tool hanging out there at the hospital, getting his cholesterol checked. One third. This guy probably needs more than cholesterol check. I can barely write. 1/3 if today's active shooter investigation, 1/3 of today's active shooter investigation at Walter Reed Medical Center was a drill. I clearly did not get the memo. Don't you know I'm the representative, the Democratic representative of this area? Nobody sent me the memo. And neither did the other people who were told to shelter in place with me, nor did Montgomery County Police and other agencies. Sounds like a little rogue. Something's gone a little rogue. Maybe something was supposed to happen and didn't happen. Maybe they decided that they were going to go live, and all of a sudden they thought, holy shit, we got a representative. We've got somebody from Congress inside of that hospital. Maybe we should call this thing off. Who knows? Ruppersberger tweeted about an active shooter at Walter Reed at around 2:31 p.m. and said he was sheltering in place. I hope I never have to go through anything like that. Can you imagine just sitting around? Okay, what do we do? They're going to come in here, kill us. Wouldn't it be great if somebody said, I'm not going out like that. Look around, they find a couple scalpels. I'm going to hunt that son of a bitch down, right? Instead of waiting around. Or if you're David Hogg, you've got your video camera on your phone. How do you feel about the active shooter going on right now? Right. Well, we know it's Nicholas Cruz, even though nobody else knows. I'm sorry, I know it's Nicholas Cruz. How do you feel about Nicholas Cruz and him being an active shooter right now? I guess we could all just bring our cell phones and have little videos that we're doing. Hi, I'm in the supply closet at Bethesda, Maryland. And right now, there's supposedly an active shooter running around the hospital. I've heard that people are being slaughtered right and left. But I'm committed to staying in this supply closet until this active shooter experience has come to its fruition. And when I come out, I guarantee you, I'll have plenty of great footage for everybody. Another tweet from Rupersberger's account at 3:04 p.m. stated that he remained sheltered, and he again confirmed he didn't believe it to be a drill. This is what he says. Somebody's writing for him, and he's Representative Rupersberger remained sheltered in a back room at Walter Reed, described mood as calm. Has not been given any additional details, but does not believe this to be a drill. Rupersberger said he wants answers as to how this happened. Good luck. There were people who were very upset and afraid. There were a lot of people who really had serious issues. He said, the fact that I'm a member of Congress and I'm on the Defense Appropriations Committee, I'm going to check with the Department of Defense to find out who is in charge of this and why did it happen this way? Because people could have been hurt. There was a lot of anxiety that we didn't need to have. Like, if that guy wasn't there, do you think he'd give two shits about what happened? People would call him up and say, man, this is really freaky. What was going on? People running around. It was very tense. It was very stressful. We didn't know if we were being attacked or what. Okay, well, I'll look into it, put it on my calendar, make sure that I have a conversation with the DOD. Oh, no, he's in there now. So he's gonna make sure that there's answers. I think they were probably going to run something. And they found out that this guy was in there. And then they called it off. That's my hit. Outside the facility, a massive police response could be seen from Chopper 13 as cars waited to enter the facility. And they were lined up outside. The building was locked down. We locked down everything, cut off the lights, and made sure nobody was in the hallway. We were pretty prepared. Lock down everything, cut off the lights. They go in there with their night vision goggles. Was there a little bit of panic when alarm alert came across your phone? Yes, always is. Anytime you have a surprise of any type, it's always a hit of panic. But we all work together as a team, said the Montgomery County Police Department, who also responded to the scene to help with the investigation. We've got messages. People inside the facility were scared and sheltering. Is that a new word now, sheltering? Hi, I'm sheltering today. I'm sheltering inside the world headquarters of RobertPhoenix.com. I'm sheltering today. Sorry. Here we go. This is from Lester A. Hyatt. This is a message from the NMPDC notification system. Please click here to acknowledge receipt of this message. Active shooter in the building. A. Jada says active shooter at my job, Walter Reed Hospital. Oh boy. Avoid J. Burnett says, here's a copy of text sent to employers or employees at Walter Reed earlier today. All clear, just issued. Lindsay Midlore, DO. She's a doctor or something. Orthopedics, maybe. Inside Walter Reed right now, after the active shooter announcement, was looking on Twitter for news. And so people questioning the safety of their loved ones. Building 19 in lockdown. Haven't heard any shots. Multiple agencies responding. Hopefully false alarm. I'm going to check with the Defense Department and find out who is in charge. Why did it happen this way? Because people could have been hurt, Ruppersberger said. Ava Joy Burnett joined the WJZ news team in January, so she was there. Oh, about that. Let me just make sure, did she write this thing? Yeah, she wrote it, and she was also tweeting. She inserted herself into the piece. Anyway, it's that's a Mercury retrograde clusterfuck, right? That's what happened there. So was something really going on, and did they cancel it? Did they kill it because this Ruppersberger guy was sheltering? By the way, an active shooter. It's called a code white. How about that? Code white. Active shooter. Shelter in place. There is currently an active shooter on the compound. Move all patients and staff to a secure location. Lock all doors. Turn off all lights and remain in secure location until notified by security. Code white. About that. It's interesting place. Well, how do we combat these potential threats? How can we take care of them before they even happen? Well, guess what? Our friends over in the UK are now rolling out an AI program that is really kind of the first iteration of pre-crime being used in a public setting. So this is from RT.com, and the headline here is Minority Report Now Reality. UK police to use AI in war on pre-crime. UK police are touting artificial intelligence as a solution to the problems of modern law enforcement, reassuring naysayers that the use of pre-crime algorithms will be restricted to offering counseling to likely offenders. Okay. This is where it starts, right? It always starts with that really soft little entry. Just it's like, it really won't hurt very much. You know, just gonna put a little tiny pinprick in there, and wham! They jam you with the big needle, right? It's always the soft entry. Oh, don't worry. Only the rich will be taxed. Don't worry. Right. No. Don't worry. We're just gonna go over there. We're just gonna get Saddam Hussein and we're gonna get out. Yeah, right. Don't worry about it. We've got this figured out. Oh, don't worry. Once once this law is passed in California, meaning same-sex marriages, it'll all be fine. We're not going to go into your schools. We're not going to go into your educational systems. We're not going to influence your children. Don't worry about it. All we want is to have the same rights as other couples do. 10 years later, they're changing the textbooks throughout the state of California to reflect the state of same-sex marriage and beyond. It always starts off with a don't worry. Oh, don't worry. You're getting, don't get your britches. Don't get your britches all up in your crotch section, right? Don't worry. It always starts off that way. Just like this UN immigration thing. Don't worry. It's not a binding compact. It's just a set of guidelines about immigration and migration. Don't worry. It's all good. And the next thing you know, they're like, wham! Oh, well. That's the way it goes. I know we told you not to worry, but maybe you should worry a little bit now. Just a little. You can worry a little, but not too much. And then it gets heavier and hotter. Oh, yeah, you probably should start to worry. But it's too late. It's too late. You gave your consent. Gave your consent. All right, let's get into this. UK police are touting artificial intelligence as a solution to the problems of modern law enforcement, reassuring naysayers. The use of pre-crime algorithms will be restricted to offering counseling to likely offenders. What would that counseling be like, by the way? Hey, come on in here. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about some of your thoughts and some of your posts on social media. We want to just have a little sit down with you. We want to know where you're coming from because, this is very strong language. And if you ever post anything like this again, we're going to pick your ass up off the streets and, you're going to spend some time in a place where we're going to reorient you with how to be in this new world that's coming because that's part of the old world. And we don't know when you'll get out. It could be 6 months, could be a year. We don't know. But the next time you post anything like this, or we'll be monitoring your thoughts. By the way, we'll bring you back in. So of course, they're going, well, anyway, let's keep reading. Suggesting that budget cuts have rendered mere human police incapable of doing their jobs without cybernetic help. Project lead Lane Donnelly, is it Ian or Lane? I think it's Ian. Ian Donnelly claims working with an AI system will allow the force to do more with less. Oh, that is going to be the maxim of the 21st century, right? To do more with less. Oh, we have less of a workforce here in terms of actual human capital, but we have all this great AI. Oh, great. Well, let's use that instead of the humans. He insists that the National Data Analytics Solution, as it's called, also known as NADS, will target only those individuals already known to have criminal tendencies, sniffing out likely offenders to divert them with therapeutic interventions, like take this drug, motherfucker, including individuals who are stopped and searched but never arrested or charged. Donnelly claims the program is not designed to preemptively arrest anyone, but to provide support from local health and social workers, giving the example of an individual with a history of mental health problems being flagged as a likely violent offender, then contacted by social services. Given that a violent mental case would almost certainly react negatively to being contacted out of nowhere by a mysterious social worker, and that a history of mental health problems is not in itself criminal. Donnelly was wise to end his example there. Yeah, right. Interventions will be offered only to potential offenders. But the NDAS, it's not NADS, it's NDAS, claims to be able to pick their victims as well. Victims is an interesting term, right? Victims. Well, like this person's going to be a victim. Let's get them off the streets. It combines statistics from multiple agencies with AI machine learning to assess an individual's risk of committing or being victimized by a gun or knife crime, or falling victim to modern slavery. Are we all in some version of modern slavery? Question mark. According to documents obtained by the New Scientist. The NDAS isolated almost 1,400 indicators of future criminality in a population sample of 5 million, analyzing more than a terabyte's worth of data from local and national police databases, and zeroed in on 30 particularly effective markers, including the number of crimes committed by people in one's own social group, the number of crimes committed with the help of others, an individual's age at first offense. The data was then used to predict when an individual already known to the police was planning to reoffend. and assigned a risk score accordingly. Okay. You know what the next level of this is? Next level is DNA testing and having your DNA on file and having DNA markers. That's all going to be part of this. At some point, DNA testing will probably be mandatory, by the way. West Midlands Police hope to begin generating predictions with the NDAS in early 2019. That's right around the corner. Working hand in glove with the Information Commissioner's Office to ensure privacy regulations as respected. Once you open the Pandora's box, boys and girls, it's over. Once they get the information, it's over. It can be hacked. It can be fake hacked. It can be leaked. It's over. Done. Let's see. The program's designers hope to see it adopted throughout the UK. London's Metropolitan Police and Greater Manchester Police are also reportedly on board. The Turing Institute found serious ethical issues with the NDAS, stating that the program fails to fully recognize important issues, despite its good intentions, and that an inaccurate prediction is a concern. Given that predictive policing is based on the existing patterns of stops, arrests, and convictions, including in individuals never found guilty or even charged with a crime, it can only reinforce bias, since it is incapable of expanding the pool of suspects beyond those tagged as suspicious by human officers. A kinder, gentler minority report may sound harmless, but predictive policing algorithms like the US's Pred poll have already demonstrated inherent racial and class bias, creating feedback loops that amplify officers' known prejudices. Given the biases many believe are hard-coded into the criminal justice system, it's difficult to see how an AI can completely break free of its programmer's preconceptions. There we go. This is where it's headed. This is where policing is headed. This is where the ball is moving. It's moving towards pre-crime. It's moving towards using AI and using various algorithms to be able to theoretically predict, not only the perp, but the victim as well. So here we go. It's coming, and it's coming very soon to an airport near you, where they will have facial recognition software, which is the next version of creating an AI that could be based on determining a potential threat in the environment. It's all being cooked up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's all being cooked up before our very eyes. And what will happen is once this stuff gets, brought out into the public, it's very hard to put it back in the box. Very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. I was talking about the fourth turning last week, and one of the things that really just sticks out of my mind in this phase that we're in is this kind of involution and this collapse and the chaos and the deconstruction, which I've been talking about for a while. And that is on this macro level, right? And as it begins to collapse in on itself, there's going to be an overarching effort to create systems of control in order to stem that chaos or stem that deconstruction. So this is what these systems are about in a lot of ways. Yes, they're there for surveillance. They're there for some form of 24/7 control matrix theater. Yes, but it's also a response to this deconstruction phase that we're in, because they want to come in over the top and create more systems of control in order to theoretically stem that tide, versus allowing this process to take place and creating something out of that process, which is when we ferret out things that are old, outmoded, outdated, that no longer work, that no longer serve us, that no longer, quote unquote, serve the interests of the people. I was watching this documentary on the Rockefellers. It's one of these History Channel whitewash jobs. And it made the Rockefellers sound like, really great philanthropists, tortured, conflicted people with so much money they didn't know what to do with, right? It's a bunch of bullshit. But if you go back in time and you look at the press, like the press in a lot of ways was much more honest back then. There was a Mother Jones, and Mother Jones was an activist, and Mother Jones went after the Rothschilds, and there were a number of people. I'm sorry, the Rockefellers. There were a number of people on the journalistic tip that were, really anti-Rockefeller, and the Rockefellers did some nasty shit. I mean, some really nasty stuff. There was a big strike that was going on with, I think it was one of their coal mines. And I mean, they brought in the National Guard, and the National Guard fired on people. What was it? Was it Ludlow? Was that where it was? And they burned this place to the ground, and women and children died. I mean, are you kidding me? People knew back then that the Rockefellers were robber barons, and there were anti-Rockefeller activists, just like there are activists today. This has been going on. This has been going on for 100 years, right? This is nothing new. And if anything, those systems of control have strengthened themselves in a lot of ways. But it feels to me like we're coming to this involutionary point, and these systems of controls coming in over the top are a way to somehow stem this involutionary, chaotic, deconstructive phase, so that there can be a new order that comes out of it that's based on higher, tighter, more integrated systems of control. I think this is an answer to what's going on. And in actuality, we have an opportunity to ferret. I mean, we're seeing things now. Here, I'm going to read you this story. Okay, this is really super transparent, right? This gives you an idea as to what's like. We didn't have this kind of insight into what our theoretical public servants were doing, say, 30 years ago. This is from Zero Hedge. It says, with Democrats, here's the headline: was Nancy Pelosi buying the fucking dip in Amazon, Apple, and FB shares? Okay, first of all, it's important to know that if you are in the Senate or the House of Representatives, guess what you get to do? You get to indulge in insider trading. That is a fact, Jack. You can do insider trading. Why do you think so many people want to get to Washington, D.C., to the 202 area code? I'll tell you why. They want to go there because they can indulge in making money, big money, in a way that is legal. All right, so I'm going to read this to you. With Democrats demanding the regulation of social media firms, lambasting Zuckerberg at every opportunity, and leftist politicians up in arms over tax handouts to Jeff Bezos's company in liberal cities, we have a simple question. Why was Nancy Pelosi's family making leveraged long bets on tens of millions of dollars worth of shares in Amazon, Facebook, and Apple in the last month, and all those stocks went down? So they're shorting. They were shorting stocks, right? You've got to have, a priority knowledge. There's got to be some forethought in there. According to the House of Representatives official filings, soon to be Majority Leader of the House, Nancy Pelosi, reported numerous huge call option purchases in the last weeks, all of which are underwater now. She went and shorted stocks. In October, Pelosi bought 30 call options, 3,000 shares in Amazon. Strike price is $1,600, maturity $117.20. 10,000 AT&T shares at 30 call options, and 3,000 shares in Facebook. Strike $140 per share, maturity $117.20. And there's the transaction reports. They're right there. Right there. Periodic transaction table, the PTR. Clerk of the House of Representatives Legislation Resource Center, Washington, D.C. It's all there, part of the public record. She's shorting stocks. The positions are likely due to her husband of 50 years, Paul Pelosi, a wealthy businessman from San Francisco. I used to ride the elevator with Paul back in San Francisco. I used to work at a magazine, and Paul Pelosi had his office right above ours. So he'd get on the elevator. He'd go up another floor. Paul Pelosi's exact net worth is not known, but in 2014, Nancy reported between $43.4 million and $202 million in assets. Holy freaking smokes! With Nancy battling the increasingly socialist progressives of her new party to maintain her role as a leader, one wonders what Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders will make of this ugly capitalism being unleashed at such an opportune time. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. We note that the investments have taken a more serious tumble in the weeks since the Democrats won the House midterm. So she was shorting her stocks. She made money. But you see now, we can see this stuff. Like it's way more open and transparent than it's ever been, which is leading to this involutionary, chaotic, deconstructive mode. And then you have the executive in chief, Mr. Gemini on steroids, bringing up more of this splitting of the, sort of the social compact, the splitting of the atom of the social compact. I mean, we're seeing this take place, right? It's happening. It's totally happening. So again, we have the opportunity, theoretically, to ferret out the stuff that's really nauseous and toxic. And where can we do that? We can do it on a local level. This is another part of the fourth turning, and that people are moving away or turning away from kind of these urban, urban centers, cities, that the movement will be more grassrootsy. And this is kind of why, I've been involved in the fluoride piece here. Knock on wood, we can turn this thing and get the fluoride out of the water, and hopefully that can spur other people to action. But this is where the meat of the fourth turning is taking place. And we can look around and see, well, this is not working, and this is not working, and this is not working. And we look around in our media environment and say, well, what can work? How can we, make a change or attempt to limit or transform whatever's taking place in our environment? So this is, we're just kind of moving along on an arc here today, bit of an arc. Want to report this other piece here. This is another kind of insert, and there's a lot going on with Mueller. He just sent Paul Manafort, I think, back to jail because he said that Manafort lied about something. I guess he didn't get his way with Jerome Corsi and Roger Stone, so he's got to, put the thumb down on Manafort. And ultimately, this whole thing is going to come down to those DNC documents that were leaked. And there are two people that were, well, there's Guccifer 1 and Guccifer 2. Guccifer 1 seems to be involved in the legit leakage of those documents. Guccifer 2 is a complete fake, was an insert, and put Russian fingerprints on those leaked docs. So this is via disobedient media. It's a bit of a long report, but I just want to read the first couple of paragraphs here. This is the Guccifer 2 narrative. I'm going to share this with you. In this report, we take the position that most of Guccifer 2's metadata modifications were deliberate. Our position is at odds with the mainstream media's recital of the events. The MSM narrative, as best we understand, is that Guccifer 2 initially slipped up, disclosing documents that were last saved using a user ID written in Cyrillic. That user ID made reference to a famous Russian spy chief. Further, Guccifer 2's first document, which he shared with two media outlets, had Russian error messages embedded in the PDFs that those media outlets published. So they're leaving crumbs that somehow point back to the Russians, right? You think the Russians would be stupid enough to put their little Cyrillic script or error messages in there? These error messages became known as Guccifer 2's Russian fingerprints, presumably left behind by accident. In Did Guccifer 2 plant his Russian fingerprints? We demonstrate that the process which Guccifer 2 likely used to plant those Russian error messages was complex and deliberate. An important point to make here is that Guccifer 2 modified 36 documents published in several batches, and each batch has metadata that can be linked to Russia, or in one batch, Romania. Guccifer 2 often made minimal changes to a document, apparently with no rhyme or reason. Yet, Russian, in parentheses, Romanian indications were the only tangible result that those changes had in common. Guccifer 2 explained away his document tweaks as simply a result of his desire to plant his hacker watermark signature right. The media accepted this explanation and viewed it as a clumsy and obvious effort to cover his initial alleged mistakes. We have a different opinion. We think Guccifer 2's main intent was to implant metadata that implicates Russia. Yeah, they always talk about Guccifer 2. Guccifer 1 is the real guy. Guccifer 2 is an insert. A point that is often lost in the flurry of details swirling around Guccifer 2.0 is that the metadata change will only stick if something in the document is modified and then that document is saved. This fact explains Guccifer 2's tendency to make minimal changes to the documents he tweaked. For the documents that we can compare to attachments and WikiLeaks emails, we see that Guccifer 2 often just added some white space, modified a header, footer, and so on. In a typical scenario, these small changes were enough to convince the application to record, which is Microsoft Word, to record the last saved by user ID Guccifer 2. So here's what he did. He took those documents and he made minimal changes. But it becomes like a watermark, Guccifer 2, whatever. So it's basically saying like, oh, well, this person did these documents. But they really didn't, because the saves were attributed to Guccifer 2 and not Guccifer 1. Right? So coming in over the top. Let's see. We see that, okay, white space. In a typical scenario, these small changes would have to convince the application to record last saved by user ID Guccifer 2's watermark and to record the current language setting in each modified document's metadata. Although the media outlets focused on Guccifer 2's quirky user IDs, we think that the real goal was to plant more meaningful metadata. So anyway, this is going to come up likely with this whole Mueller charade and circus. You'll hear more about Guccifer 2 again, because now it's coming down to WikiLeaks. Now it's coming down to those DNC documents that were released just before the election, which some people believe that the Russians implemented. I don't think so. I think if anybody was going to leak those documents through Seth Rich, it was more than likely, I believe, the Mossad and some form of Israeli intelligence. That's what I think. I think them through Seth Rich were the ones that orchestrated that. And Seth Rich had a long-standing relationship with Israel. He went on kibbutz there. He spent a lot of time hanging out with, intelligence, IDF peeps on his kibbutzes and all that stuff. So this is what I think happened. And Russia becomes this kind of de facto surrogate, another insert into the whole leakage process. It's going to come up. And ultimately, I think that the Russia Gate investigation is going to come down to those emails. Bottom line, end of story. And it could also reintroduce Julian Assange into the public theater, although I don't think that happens. I'm thinking we may never see Julian Assange again, to be quite honest with you. All right, let me check in with everybody in the chat room, see what we got going on here. We got Sticky Marks, Kirkistocracy, and Piston Pool. What else we have? We've always been hoodwinked into the next phase of evolution. What else? What else we have here? Right, but people have forgotten the truth. It's easy to find again. Yes, the truth. Absolutely. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the fluoride out of the water, because guess what happens? It fries your pineal gland. It puts you in a trance, and fluoride acts as an activator with all the other stuff that's in our environment. So this is what we're trying to do here. Stephen says, evolutionary arc, they who will not see it. Evolutionary arc, they who see it. Limvolutionary arc, when shown the truth, they are maybe or maybe do not see. Okay. Wise like lions, yada, yada, yoda. Where many? They are few. And stupid, vicious with stupid training. No, don't. Okay. All right. Hey, listen. That's your little dose of reality, dose of your news break today. We had a false flag shooting or false flagger in Bethesda, Maryland. Very weird scene with a member of Congress on site. Maybe the reason why it got called off. Still another drill to take place at Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland. We have, of course, the rise of AI and pre-crime, which kind of goes hand in hand with that, and the look behind the curtain with Nancy Pelosi and her financial dealings over the last few weeks, shorting stocks that she probably knew were going to fall and making yet more money. In the meantime, we awaken. We awaken. This is an interesting time. There's, you can rest on the lower branches of cynicism and say, well, this has all happened before and nothing ever changes. And I patently disagree with that. We are living in a very interesting time. There are numbers of people that are waking up in ways that we've never seen before. I think the most difficult piece is to make sure that as we awaken, we're not herded, because this is always what happens. It's like when this whole thing in a lot of ways started with the Tea Party and the rise of the Tea Party. And what happened with the Tea Party is that there were a lot of people at a local level said, fuck it, we're mad as hell, we're not taking it anymore. And then the Tea Party got infiltrated and got astroturfed. And you have people like, Marco Rubio posing as a Tea Party candidate, which is a bunch of bullshit. This is what happens all the time. People wake up, there's infiltration, there's herding. This is different. This is a different time now. We have a medium of communication that's available to us that we've never had before. Yes, some of those portals are getting shut down, but it's still here right now. And we have, I believe, the potential for real powerful spiritual awareness that we haven't had altogether, concomitant in one package. And if, we can either, kind of roll over and, let it happen, or we can continue this awakening process, support one another, be informed, and find ways in which we can be useful and active in our everyday lives, whether it's helping other people, whether it's maintaining our body, whether it's making sure that our emotional, intellectual, and spiritual systems are online, or finding something in your local area that you can get involved with that can actually make a real change. Because if not, you just better pack it in. Go drive your car into your driveway. No, I don't want to do that, because people say, well, if you're not going to be part of the change, just check out, right? And people have done that. People have actually done that. People have committed suicide, and I'm not going to advocate that. I'm advocating life. Okay, that's what I'm advocating, and it's a lot more precious than we've allowed it to deteriorate to. Let's see. All right. We're out of here. Thank you, everybody. Love y'all. Bill Deagle is launching new multiple platforms this week. He's on fire. All right. Hey, check out Bill Deagle. Check him out. See what's going on over in Bill Deagle's world. Maybe I'll check it out too. We'll see what happens there. All right. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix, and you are you. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. Thanks for being a part of it.